Ooh, that would be helpful, Abram. I don't know.
I,
I mean, I don't want to tell you your business. I don't want to mansplain you, but
but it is important that I hit both buttons. There are two buttons I always have to press, and I have hit both. And we are live with the punch list this week. NerdsOnEarth.com with your nerdy news this week. I'm Abram. I'm here with my esteemed colleague, Mr. Clave. Clave,
hello.
how are you today? Are you ready to talk some news?
Only if it's nerdy.
Well, we have that in droves over at
Good.
NerdsOnEarth.com.
At least 7 pieces of nerdy news is my hope.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
That at least fall in the niche realm of nerddom. So,
Probably really nichey.
yeah,
If you want to get technical.
some of it might be. But that's
Yeah.
okay. That's what we're here for. We're here to break down the news from the past week. Every Wednesday, we do it via the Punch List article that comes out at nerdsonearth.com, which I think is back up and running in a pretty smooth way. So, sorry.
It's a little slow.
It might be a little slow still. We're working on it. But
Yeah, it's a little depressing. Our website, kind of like our emotions right now in 2020. But whatever. It's a metaphor.
yeah, that's why we deliver. That's why we want to give you the people behind the site, so you can see that we are truly doing our best to deliver all of the nerd content in whatever capacity we can.
Yeah.
So, 7 things in news. Let's get started with number 7. There is a Conan series in development at Netflix. So Netflix has those exclusive rights, and that's pretty much what we know. It's going to be the first sort of screen adaptation of Conan since 2011, which had Jason Momoa in it. But if it's animated, so this is literally how much we know. We don't know if it's live action or animated.
Okay.
But if it's animated, it would be the first since 1994. So it's more of a headline, and I wish we had more news to share. But that's the gist of it. Clave, you're not the biggest Conan fan in the world, but I think you like Conan.
Well, I mean, I share the same musculature. I mean, I'm
I,
a weightlifter, obviously. I mean, clearly. Man, I like Conan. It's just an old franchise, right? I
mm-hmm.
mean, the 2011. I didn't watch. Did you watch it? I mean,
I didn't
I
know.
don't know. I don't know. It just hasn't been a bunch of buzz. But when I was a kid, I loved it, man. It had Arnold. I mean, it was James Earl Jones. I mean, I loved it when I was a kid. I was totally into it. Um, but yeah, I've been a little lukewarm, but I'm excited about this news. And so, how much do you think The Witcher had to do with this? So
Oh,
The
I,
Witcher was a big hit on Netflix, and they're like, "Hey, we can do Witcher, we can do Conan, right?" And so, you and I have talked about this before. There needs to be some strong fantasy content.
mm-hmm.
I'm surprised that the Lord of the Rings and Amazon they haven't fast tracked it. I think there's a place for some solid fantasy content. I think some of the things of Conan just don't play well nowadays.
Right. Yeah, that was my
having a
comment.
harem of women around him. I don't know that that's going to. But then you saw The Witcher, and The Witcher. I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll have to see what the production looks like. Um, but I don't know. It's fun news.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, I didn't even think to compare it kind of to The Witcher, but I mean, you're right there. As far as like fantasy TV, I mean, with Game of Thrones out of the picture, you have all these
Yeah,
other IPs that are sort of wrapping up or have wrapped up.
there's a
And
vacuum
there's a
to be
vacuum.
filled. Yeah.
So why not put Conan back on the screen? And yeah, I think they'll have to kind of reinvent it to be a little bit more contemporary and modern, and kind of strip out some of that. That's a poor use of words, but
Right.
strip out some of that
Yeah.
dated stuff. But
Well, who's going to who's going to play Conan? I
I,
mean, Arnold at the time was such a. I mean,
so,
who knew that he would go on to be one of the greatest movies? Well,
like
maybe not the
action stars.
greatest,
Yeah,
but
but as far
yeah,
as like
best
action
known
stars,
movie
that
stars.
right, that
Yeah, but
iconic
around that
muscular
time
guy.
it was Conan, and then Terminator hit, and then I mean Predator. I mean,
Commando, you
just
got them all.
yeah, yeah. So, I mean, if you get the right young, guy on steroids, you got the next action star lined up.
I mean, if they want Cavill, I mean, I'm not going to say no. I will always say yes to more Cavill, but he won't. He's too
Seriously, he
busy.
is a he is a beefy man.
He's awesome. So there you go. Check it out. We'll keep our finger on the Conan pulse and see what pops up regarding this new show coming at some point in the future, probably 2024. Number 6, Renegade Games. Publisher has announced that they have obtained a few new licenses of their own. And some games that are going to accompany those licenses. So they now include G.I. Joe, Transformers, and My Little Pony. And they also have 2 Power Rangers games, so they've got a deck builder coming out and an RPG sort of based around the 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons rules. I'm not sure what the tie-in necessarily is there, but it's also going to join, all that kind of joins Heroes of the Grid Miniatures game that has expansions and stuff. So Renegade Games is really latching onto those existing IPs as of late.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, we mentioned things are nichey. This is a niche,
This
right?
is pretty niche.
Yeah. So for folks who might not know, Renegade Games is a board game publisher. I don't know, Abram. What would you say your top tier publishers are? Most folks have only heard of like Hasbro and Parker Brothers. The monopolies and the. So when we talk
Right.
about board games, we're not talking about those. We're talking about modern hobby board games, which
Talking
you'd find in
about
the game shop.
Stonemeyer,
Right.
talk about Fantasy Flight.
Yeah, and so probably your top tier, yeah, Fantasy Flight, come on, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Um,
I put them in there.
you know, Renegade is certainly known, but they're kind of a mid tier.
Mm-hmm.
Where I'm getting with this is they're getting a lot of IP, a lot.
Right.
I mean, it's not like GI Joe was my childhood, but it's not like GI Joe's the biggest IP in the world.
Mhm.
But it's a known. They're getting solid IPs. I can't imagine this is. Would you think this is what's the word I'm looking for when it's when
A
it's
money
unique?
grab? Oh,
No, the only one company can have it. There's a word,
Exclusive?
and I'm completely exclusive. Thank you. That's not a hard word. Why can't I remember that?
it's
So
a
I can't
25-cent
imagine
word.
this is an exclusive license.
Right.
I know that WizKids has some GI Joe miniatures. So what this says to me is that Hasbro, who has those licenses, have been shopping out the IPs. And so I'm sure they approached these different companies and said, "Hey, what would you do with this IP if we would give it to you?" So it sounds like maybe some deck builders or some whatever's, probably not miniatures. So when they share these IPs, one company is like, "Okay, I want the IP for cards. I want the IP for miniatures. I want the IP for whatever sort of games," and so they can spread it around. But Renegade as a company is known for a little bit of shotgun approach. They throw a lot of spaghetti against the wall and see what sticks, and
that works for them.
oftentimes,
Yeah.
indeed. And so a lot of times they have some great games, and then they have some that weren't as well baked.
Right. Well,
But
that's the thing too, though. I think since Renegade, they're more, I'd call them middle tier, kind of like you said. When you get those IPs and stuff, I think that's an acknowledgement that, hey, we want to focus on the sort of mass market, like things that people can
that's a
relate
good
to,
point.
people that they know. Getting into the Target, getting into more of the big box retail stores. And yeah, you'll still see their titles, probably in your board gaming stores, friendly local game store. But it seems like maybe that's the direction they're sort of pivoting. It's like I want people to look at that and say, "Oh, I didn't know there was a GI Joe board game," and then they're like, "I like GI Joe," and then they pick that up, as opposed to looking at a box and being like, "I don't know what this. I don't recognize anything on this box." People love. They find comfort in what they find familiar. So
yeah,
we'll see where that goes.
yeah.
It's interesting. Number 5 on the list, Critical Role's Mighty Nein is getting a Munchkin title, another board game news, but this is worth mentioning because Critical Role is the biggest tabletop Twitch stream phenomena. I don't even know what you call it.
How
at
would
this
you even
point.
define it? I don't know.
Yeah, it's a conglomerate. But like Critical Role's role in really springboarding the success of Dungeons and Dragons with 5th edition. I mean, it's they owe a lot of their success, or I should say, Dungeons and Dragons owes a lot of their success kind of to them. So they're getting a Munchkin title. So Munchkin, Steven Jackson's game that's very popular, has tons and tons of different IPs with it at this point. I mean, you can find a Munchkin for most, quite a few things at this point.
I have my own Munchkin title, Abram. I don't
Do
know
you?
if I told you. Nerds Unearthed Munchkin. Yeah, it's great.
Oh, I wonder what you would be in Munchkin. What represents Clave in Munchkin? Clave's glaive. Clave's glaive.
Yeah.
It's a +6 weapon.
Yeah. No, this is fun news. If you don't know Munchkin's a board game. It's not a great board game, but it's a darn fun board game.
It's fun, yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, it's the kind of thing where you play it in 45 minutes and you just kind of hoot and holler, and it's silly. And their strategy for growth is to do Munchkin in a gazillion varieties. So there's Space Munchkin and Fantasy Munchkin and whatever Munchkin, and a ton of IPs, X-Men, Marvel Munchkin. And so Critical Role, I think, fits. They got a big audience. I think what's surprising is Critical Role, why Munchkin?
Yeah.
Like I swear they would make their own.
They could do I could see like a Gloomhaven-esque like Critical Role, like sort of like a dumbed down version of Gloomhaven or something.
Absolutely.
More rules.
Yeah. You could see them generating, having the fan base to be able to carry a weightier game.
Right.
So I'm a little surprised about Munchkin, but it's whatever. It's cool.
Yeah. So you can, and that's the other thing about Munchkin too is, if you have a couple copies of Munchkin, you can sort of smash them all together, and you could play, Critical Role, Space Munchkin all at the same time, which leads to its own sort of rules, scenarios, and exceptions that just sort of go off the charts. But yeah.
And I'm just throwing this out there, but Lords of Waterdeep. Lords of Waterdeep's a fantastic game.
There you go.
It's a modern board game. I would put it in my top 7. It's great. It's been around 15 years maybe.
Probably, yeah.
Solid. Probably maybe 10. Why not do Critical Role?
That's a
reskin
that's
of
such a good
Lords
idea.
of Waterdeep, right? Like why go with Munchkin? Why not do something a little heftier? But
that's already. Isn't Lords of Waterdeep already is Dungeons and Dragons universe, right?
Right.
So yeah, that's a you better.
Ooh,
we better
better a G.I. Joe version of Lords of Waterdeep. So completely changing it, and the missions are Joe versus Cobra.
Clave, we have our pitch. We need to. I'm stopping the stream right now. I'm taking down the video that's live recorded. We're not posting this anywhere. We have to take this.
We don't want anyone else to get that.
We gotta take this to Renegade right now. So that's awesome. Mighty Nein, Critical Role Munchkin coming out someday soon in the future. Number 4, we have confirmation that Jamie Foxx is going to return as Electro in SpiderMan 3, which is the Sonyverse. Or is it? Or is this MCU? I don't know. I can't remember.
I'm just going to say right now, I don't like this, Abram. I don't like this.
He doesn't like it. Explain.
Oh, I love Tom Holland, man. And I'm over Sony and all their monkey business and all their random movies that they tried to tell us are good and will tie in and will be awesome. And most aren't. They're mediocre. And then they reboot and they do whatever. I'm like, just give Spider-Man back to Marvel and do your own thing. And so I read this and I couldn't quite figure it out. I mean, surely he is not going to be in the Spider-Man the third MCU Spider-Man that's on the dock. Surely that's not the case.
Yeah,
if that is, I'm not happy about that. And then if they're doing that, why do another Spider-Man in the Sonyverse when no one cares? Um, so
Harsh reality, but true.
and then honestly, like I wasn't interested enough to click through the link to even read about this. I'm like, this dumb Sony stuff again.
Yeah, I don't know the details. They said he's not going to. You can't see it, Clay, but I do have an image up on the streaming live worldwide of Electro, who is blue skin.
I haven't seen that Spider-Man movie.
Oh, so you have no frame of reference. Well, I will say the thing that I am excited about it is, can we finally get a Sinister Six in the movie? Please and thank you. That's all I ask. That's all I want.
See, that's your Marvel Strike Force talking, because you love the Sinister
It is, but it was also the very first Spider-Man novel I ever read, Revenge of the Sinister Six.
Yeah.
And it was awesome, and I loved it. And there was 6 of them, and I couldn't have been happier. But that's sort of where
I think this is obviously something. I mean, Spider-Man makes money, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, if you were really doing this for the fans, you would focus on a Spider-Man,
right,
in a universe, and not try to create this
multiverse, this threaded verse of Spideys.
Yeah. So but Sony, they got bills to pay. They got children to feed. So they're gonna make a new movie, I guess.
They're gonna do it.
Out in theaters, I'm sure, in 2020, because that'll work.
You're right. That was the plan. Number 3 on the punch list, getting down to the final trio here. The Origins Awards winners were announced for this year, so I'm not going to read through all of them. I will read at least the 2 that I've played. Best board game of the year, Tiny Towns, love it, so good. Best card game, Point Salad, both of those are AEG published, super good. And then best family game was Quacks of Quedlinburg. And then there's a whole bunch of other stuff, role-playing games, game accessories, all that other stuff too. So
the categories get a little small, but but for context, the Origins Awards. Origins is a board game convention that happens when conventions were a thing. That didn't happen this year. I haven't done an online convention. We don't need to have that conversation again, but it didn't happen, and the awards finally were released, and they're fairly well known awards in the board game industry. So this is a high. This isn't just a participation ribbon. This is a coveted, nice award.
This is something you can slap on the box with a reprint.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. So good for them. And Tiny Towns, of course, you were a guest on that AEG stream before, and both of us like Tiny Towns, and both of us like Point Salad. You got me into that game. When I saw Best Family Game, Quacks, I'm like, I gotta check that out for the.
Yeah, I haven't played that one yet either.
Yeah, but I didn't look too deeply because for the same reasons some of the categories get a little niche. It's like, I don't care what the best game accessory is. I mean, that's not to disparage people who make
the Citadel contrast paint.
Like, it's just not as exciting as Game of the Year. It's like the Oscars. No one cares about the. Sorry, sound engineers, but no one cares. We want to know the best actress award or picture of the year, right?
Right. So really, really good list of things. Go check it out. And then, I'd recommend going over, if something sort of strikes your eye, like head over to BoardGameGeek.com and check out, some information on that, get some reviews or whatever, to see if something might interest you. They win awards for a reason.
Yeah, but in terms of recommendation, I think both of us would say Tiny Towns or
Point Salad.
Either of those games, either of us would give a hearty recommendation.
Definitely.
We've played them. They're good.
We have. Awesome. Number 2, Miss Marvel has been cast as Iman Vellani. And apparently has necessarily no filmography otherwise, but it's coming to Disney Plus for that series, and no premiere date, no nothing, but the casting is set and it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah, and some of the other cast have already been announced, but they didn't have their lead. And you know, she's a newcomer, and I love it. You saw the picture and saw the write up, and she's darling. You know, she's a great kid, and she's just enthusiastic and smiling,
and that's what you need for Miss Marvel. That's exactly it.
Yeah. If you're not familiar with the comics, she's an enthusiastic young superhero who idolizes Captain Marvel, and you know, she's sidekicks with some of the other young superheroes, the champions and the whatever. You know, the so she's a great comic. I don't know when she came on the scene in terms of comics. It's been less than 10 years, I would think.
I believe. I think you're right.
7, 8 years, maybe 10 years. But she's a newer character, but a beloved character, popular character. She's going to have her Disney Plus show, and I think it'll be great. It opens the way for. Now, she's not technically part of the Young Avengers as they were originally released in the comics, but it does give some of these younger heroes a chance to form a Young Avengers team. Obviously, the Hawkeye series, Hawkeye will come in with the Kate Bishop, a young character. Rumors around WandaVision that there's going to be a couple of the Young Avengers. So anyway, there's
I'm so
the way
excited.
Marvel does it is they put the pieces in place, and then they slow walk you to get there, and then they all come together. And I think it's good. But the moral of the story is she on just appearances, she just looks like a great casting. Mm-hmm. She looks the part, and she's young and enthusiastic and a newcomer. So
yes,
congratulations to her.
Yes, very exciting. And I can't wait to see Miss Marvel when that comes out. I can't wait. Any MCU, just direct to my veins, please. I'll take
Seriously, we need those first Disney Plus shows.
Yes, I know. They were teased. At this point, it seems like ages ago that they were announced.
So many delayed. But as of this recording, WandaVision is scheduled for the end of November. We'll see.
We'll see. Fingers crossed. And number 1 on the list, everybody's favorite video game pop culture sensation, Zeitgeist Fall Guys, is getting their Season 2 launch tomorrow. It's getting, quote-unquote, a glam up. And so it's a medieval-themed update, so getting all your... I call them beans. I'm not sure what they actually are, walking beans, but new costumes and all that stuff. Coming on actually tomorrow is when the update launches. Clave, I know you haven't played any Fall Guys. Do you know what the beans look like?
I have no idea what it is. I've heard you guys in our Nerds on Earth Discord, which is open, right? And so we just open that up to others, so you can join us, nerds.
Yeah,
Nerds on Earth Discord.
We'll drop a link somewhere.
Yeah, I heard you nerds talk about it, but I haven't played it.
Yeah, so Fall Guys was the PlayStation Plus free game, I think, last month, and it was really, really super popular, and it's sort of been replaced now by Among Us, which is the latest sort of social deduction game about an imposter amongst your space crew. But, you know, this will definitely probably get some people back to Fall Guys and remembering the comically... strange fun that you have just running around trying to complete objectives and race, and you're a fun bean that you can dress up. I will for all time call these things beans because that's what they look like. They look like human beings.
Well, I'm old, so I'm a Mr. Bean fan. People don't remember Mr. Bean, but gosh, Rowan Atkinson.
Oh, the one where he's eating the sandwich?
Comedy legend.
Where he makes the sandwich on the bench. So
just
good.
So ridiculous. So that's what I think of when you say beans. I'm like, is it Mr. Bean?
I don't know. Hey, that's a great team up. You're full of great ideas. They're going to do a Fall Guys Mr. Bean costume meetup where you get a Mr. Bean head.
That'd be great.
So, yeah, we'll pitch that too. We'll see which one sticks, that or Lords of Waterdeep G.I. Joe. I don't know. We'll see. Number 7, let's recap it back from the top. Number 7, Conan series coming to Netflix, animated live action. Nobody knows. Number 6, Renegade Games has a ton of new licenses and games coming out. Number 5, The Mighty Nein, Critical Role, coming to Munchkin board game. Number 4, Jamie Foxx is confirmed as Electro in Spider-Man number 3. The Origins winners have been announced for Best Board Game of the Year. Goes to Tiny Towns. Number 2, Iman Vellani cast as Miss Marvel for the Disney Plus show. And number 1, Fall Guys Season 2 is coming tomorrow, so dust off your consoles and go to Beantown, which in this case is not Boston. And that's the news. We did it. That's the punch list.
We did it.
So
yeah.
Thank you all.
Until next week, right? And
yeah,
we'll do it again.
We'll be back. So go to nerdsonearth.com where you can get the punch list article in the morning, and then come join us in the afternoon and watch us chat about just everything that happened. Until next time, Clave, it's been a pleasure.
Absolutely, Abram.
All right.
Later, nerds.
Later.